Hi guys, I just wanted to do a quick video here. I have a 2009 Kawasaki Concours 14 here. I went online and couldn't really find too many videos or anything to help people out on valve adjustment. So I decided to do a quick one. Hit or miss here. I hope I can give all the information for the basics. First off, it's quite a bit involved. It's not hard. It's just time consuming to remove everything off from the bike itself to get to the valve covers. Um, so it's fall here in Michigan. I'm not out riding every day in 35-degree temps at the moment. So I mean, I plan on firing it up and taking it for a spin as soon as I button everything up here. So I just want to give a quick rundown here of how I went about this. What I did first was remove, obviously, everything, the front fairing, radiator, so on and so forth, off from it. And I removed this cover here, exposes my timing wheel. So I rotate this. This takes a 17 millimeter socket. And if you look, there's a casting, the seam here. One, you'll see the 1 and 4, one with the line on it, will line up perfectly with that mark. When you do that, you will look at number 1 cylinder, the left, sitting on the bike on your left side. The cam lobes farthest left will point away from each other. Okay? At that point, you will be able to measure the valve clearance on intake and exhaust on number 1. Exhaust on number 2 only. Intake on number 3. When you have those readings, you then come back down here and you turn this, I believe it's 2 turns, back to the same mark that it's on. You'll see the 1 and 4 lined up perfectly here. When you do that, you then will have the farthest number 1 cam lobes facing away from each other. If I said that correctly. And you will see that the exhaust cam here has a line, and it is even with the top of the case. And you will have one over here that will be lined up with the top of the case. You'll see you're about a 45-degree angle off the center line here, this intake. So what I did after I got it to the point of removing the valve cover is I set the timing to number 1, top dead center, adjusted the valves that I mentioned, then rotated it, adjusted the last 8 valves, or not adjusted them, measured them, documented them, and then the ones that were out, I had a couple that were out, so I went ahead, and it's worn off now, but if it focus here, I then marked from the cam to the chain, and also here from the sprocket to the chain, so that when I placed a bungee strap or something here, I tied it up to the handlebars so that it held the tension. And then here I removed the 10 millimeter bolts and pulled the timing chain tensioner out. I wanted to keep the slack. You do not want it coming off from the crank gear. So now that we're at this point, you then undo your bolts evenly. The valves will push up on those caps. All right. when you get them all the way out, you do not need to remove the cams from the engine in order to adjust the valves. You know your measurement because you documented it. You can actually take this and roll it. So you pick it up. Remember, your bungee strap is pulling the tension up. You roll it without skipping teeth. You roll it to the inside. So you'd roll this way, following the cogs need to follow the chain. And then you can use a magnet and pull out your cups in here, each one on your exhaust side. Remember, your shims are just under that. When you pull those out, you can use a magnet, pull them out. Remember that your shims will be more than likely stuck to the bottom of the cup. Okay? So pay attention. Don't let them fall in. Don't lose them. You'll want to measure those shims and do your calculation to figure out what size shim you need to put it back into spec. When you are all said and done, remember, when you pull these caps off, let's back up a little bit. When you pull these caps off, there are dowels located under the outer sockhead cap screws all the way down. Not on the inside. I believe it's only on the outside. I left this one off, exposed, so I could show everyone here. So these are dowels. The bolts go down through the center. There are 4 bolts. These will, more than likely, some of them will pull out with the cap, so be careful. They can fall down. Also, you could lose one, drop it in the engine. You just want to avoid it, so just pay attention. Pull them up slowly. So when you do the exhaust side here, you can do the same thing. Once you roll this up, you can roll it back into place. And then you may have to move the bungee strap over because it's here holding up pressure. You could take this exhaust cam and do the same thing. A lot of time you can just take it and sort of fold it up some, and the cam will actually move out of the way to give yourself enough room to get to the cups and shims. So when buttoning all this back down, you're going to want to put them all in, all the bolt socket cap screws in evenly, all right? This one in particular, this cap, goes from this side to that side. The cap has cutouts and grooves in it that these will ride in those notches. Make sure your cam is seated nicely inside those, so your in and out is there. I mean, you don't want it rubbing. I know it's really close. There's not much room for it to actually move, but it can. And if you do that, and it's pushing on it, you can break this center cap because it won't line up on the dowels. And you'll tighten it down and go to torque it, and it will crack. Nonetheless, it's not a bad job. Yes, it's time consuming, but I like to do things myself so I know where the valves are. I can make a sheet. I know for 100% what I checked them at and what they're at when I button everything back up. When you get this all done, you torque everything down. I'm going to reuse my old gasket. If you pull it off and it looks good, there's no rips, just clean everything up really nice. Get all the oils off. It has to be, get all the residue of any oil you have on there all the way around. Clean it up really nice. Put a bead of RTV, not a large. You don't have to cake it on. Just a nice bead around. Let it cure a little for 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Set the gasket down on it, you do want to make sure the gasket's nice and clean. And then put another bead on the top case. When you slide it down onto it, then you can torque it. Torque it all back together. Now, you get, more than likely, that will never leak. If you do it right, nice and clean, a little bit of RTV around, it will be perfectly fine. Now, your cam sensors, well, they're sealed with